Hello and welcome back to another Shaw Consulting podcast. Today we're cutting through the noise surrounding artificial intelligence. We all know the UK housing and public sector needs AI to tackle budgets and service demands. But where should we actually be focusing our investment? Joining us to provide a critical reality check is Shaw Consulting's MD, Chris Shaw, an expert in AI and digital transformation. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Stuart. Great to be here. It's a vital conversation because simply throwing money at the latest tech trend without a strategy is not an option when you're dealing with public funds and resident trust.
Absolutely. We're basing our chat today around the latest Gartner hype cycle for artificial intelligence. Chris, let's just jump straight into the hot topic, generative AI. So for the last year, it's felt like the answer to every efficiency challenge. So what is the hype cycle and what does it tell us about generative AI now?
Well, think of Gartner's hype cycle as a wave. So at the start, when a new technology comes out, you're riding your wave. Everything looks amazing. It's going to be one of the best things ever. And then you drop down to the bottom of the wave. And this is where we're talking about Gen AI at the moment. So in Gartner's hype cycle, what they're saying where Gen AI is it's at the trough of disillusionment. And what that means is it's got to the bottom of this wave. So we've ridden the wave of optimism and now we're right down in the shallows thinking, oh, is it actually going to deliver anything and all things like that?
That's a good explanation. Trough of disillusionment. Sounds like something from Lord of the Rings, I think, doesn't it, really? And very dramatic. So what does that actually mean specifically for a council or a housing association?
It means the three biggest risks we were worried about are now manifesting. So first, many people have heard about the term hallucinations and bias. If a commercial chatbot makes a mistake, it's a customer service issue. If a public sector Gen AI model provides wrong information on welfare claim or a housing application, that's a failure of public accountability and trust. Second, it's about value for money. Gartner shows that despite organizations spending a lot on Gen AI, chief execs' satisfaction with the return on that investment is surprisingly low. The public sector must demonstrate a proven, tangible return on investment for every penny of taxpayer money. Pilot projects that don't scale are essentially wasted funds.
So I guess what we're saying, the message is pause the breathless hype and focus on the practical, ethical delivery.
Yeah, precisely. The excitement was warranted, but now it's the time for maturity. We need to govern the AI we're deploying and not just deploy it.
Okay, so if Gen AI is in this trough, where should our leaders, the CIOs, the service directors be directing their investment? What's coming out of that trough?
The smart money is on the foundational technologies that AI ensures is delivered reliably and fairly. The hype cycle highlights two critical areas moving toward the plateau of productivity: AI engineering and modern model ops.
So, Chris, tell us more about AI engineering. Why is that so crucial for, say, a housing maintenance model?
So AI engineering is the discipline that ensures AI solutions are consistent, secure, and robust. So for public services, this translates into explainability. So if your system uses AI to prioritize which social housing block receives proactive maintenance, you need to be able to explain why that decision was made to the residents, to the auditors, and to the board. AI engineering builds in those auditable pathways.
Okay, and model ops, that sounds like governance in practice.
It is, yeah. Model ops manages the entire life cycle of an AI model after it's deployed. We know models decay and they can drift inadvertently, creating or amplifying bias over time. If you're using AI for resource allocation or triaging services or distribution of grants, Model Ops is your framework for monitoring that model, ensuring it remains fair and compliant with the public sector equality duty. It's the essential control layer.
Okay, so let's talk about the biggest roadblock. because you can have the best model in the world, but if the foundation is poor, it'll crumble. So the hype cycle highlights AI-ready data as being at the peak of inflated expectations. What's the connection here?
So this is the UK public sector's biggest vulnerability. When Gartner did their research, they found a sobering 57% of organizations estimate their data isn't ready for AI. We can invest in all the AI tools we want, but if the underlying data is fragmented, it's stored in legacy silos, or it's inconsistent across departments, AI is going to fail.
That is quite a concern. I'm sure that probably hits home as well to some of our listeners who've seen that firsthand. But we know it's an age-old problem of dated systems.
Yeah, exactly, Stuart. Yeah, so AI-ready data isn't just about having a data lake, it's about data fitness. Does the data have the quality, the integrity, and the standardization to be reliable for what that specific AI task is? So until local authorities and housing associations unify and clean up their core resident and asset data, they're simply digitizing chaos. The strategic investment must be in data governance and quality assurance before the next big AI project.
Chris, I think you made some really, really valid points today, and I'm sure our listeners will be taking them away and sort of examining what they're doing in their own workplace. So just let's wrap this up with the 3 key actions our listeners should take away from this hype cycle.
Yeah, the 3 takeaways, Stu, are govern, engineer, and data first. So govern your Gen AI, move pilots to production cautiously with a focus on governance to maintain that public trust. Engineer for scale. So invest strategically in AI engineering and model ops to ensure your models are auditable, reliable, and fair. And think data first. This is non-negotiable. Prioritize unifying and standardizing your core data. You can't scale AI on broken data foundations.
Well, thanks very much for that, Chris. So 3 takeaways for our listeners. And as usual, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they can do so via the Shaw Consulting website or LinkedIn. Thanks very much, Chris. And thanks to our listeners for listening. And we'll see you again soon for another Shaw Consulting podcast.